Tonight I'm showing you how to paint Catwoman. The first thing I'm gonna do is plot out the face and where it goes on the canvas. I'm just using white paint. Her head is tipping backwards and she's wearing a mask, so these are the holes. I'm mixing a really light shade of gray to plot out her features. As you can see, we started out with a black canvas. I'm thinking I actually want the face to be bigger than this. What I'm gonna do is first plot out the eyes and go from there. So here are the eyes. It's at an angle because her head is going to be tipped backwards, kind of like a Vogue pose. Similarly to this. Heads up, there's a lot of air traffic tonight with airplanes flying about. I told the airplanes to be quiet while I record for ASMR, but they refuse to listen. So if you happen to hear some airplanes in the distance, I do apologize. The left eye that's turned away from us is going to be smaller than the right eye, and you can think of them as almond shapes. Now, after that, I'm going to plot out where the eyebrow is going to go, and then the mask hole. Now, I will mention this is a personal rendition of Catwoman, although I think we both know who the best Catwoman is, and that would be Michelle Pfeiffer from Batman Returns. Actually, you're the one who recommended I watch that movie after I painted the Jack Skellington painting, and I asked you what your favorite Tim Burton movie was, and you said Batman Returns. So I did some digging and I watched it, and I'm in love, and it inspired this painting video, even though my painting is my own representation of Catwoman. I'm wondering if I'm able to fit in the oh so important ear. Maybe I should move her face over a little bit. I have my wet rag, and I'm actually just gonna wipe away the paint, and then I'm gonna dry off my canvas. Although it seems like that's a mistake, it's not. It's important to plot out where everything goes before you develop the painting and make sure everything actually fits on the canvas properly. So if you need to move things around in the beginning stages, it's totally okay. So I'm going ahead and putting in the ear, which is triangle, first. Honestly though, this one's dry, so let's make the ear higher up so there's more room for the neck. So it's a sideways triangle. Now reiterating the openings of the eye mask by making one large oval. And then another collapsed oval because she's slightly turned away. So we have to make sure we keep the proportions correct. Okay, then we will plot out her eyes. Again, making the left eye a little smaller as it's turned away from the viewer. Just for painting purposes, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and take my black paint and kind of cover up some of the confusing lines in my painting, just so you guys don't get confused. But remember, you can always do this. You can always go in and kind of paint over whatever it is that you initially have. But I highly encourage you to plot everything out and outline it with your paint before committing and developing anything. All right, now we're going to create the bottom of the mask, which kind of goes down in a diagonal line and then curves around the cheek. Very good. Her eyebrow is going to go in here somewhere. And right now I'm inversing the colors using white and light gray to outline. And we're going to be pulling the light from the black. If you look at my brush, it's pretty small, but not too small. So I encourage you to find that medium-sized brush. We'll graduate to a smaller brush as we refine the details. Let's put a little nostril there. Now creating a curve of the face. Before we finish the chin, let's plot out where her lips are going to go. You can think of this as an outline. So her lips are pouting. So we're making almost a rainbow shape. That's her top lip. And then her bottom lip here. Are you hanging in there? You hear that siren? I'm in trouble. They're after me. So now I'm actually gonna just fill in the space, which is her face, creating a curve underneath her eye, which is her jawline, and then curving upward because remember her head is turned slightly away and her chin is up. It's kind of like a Vogue dramatic head position. And I'm going to go ahead and fill it in. And then that will allow me to take the black and just put a general like two little holes, which are her nostrils. And then let's just go ahead and fill that in, just so we can get a sense of the space before we articulate anything. There's one little peak of an earlobe. Let's do the same thing here around her eyes. I have to ask, what is your favorite scene in Batman Returns? if you have a favorite Batman, you are more than welcome to put it in the comments. I would love to know what your favorite Batman rendition is. If you do have a favorite scene from Batman Returns, please put it in the comments. Mine is when Catwoman turns into Catwoman and she goes back to her apartment and turns everything from pink to black. It's so iconic and artistic. So that's definitely my favorite scene. And I would love to know what yours is. What do you think of the fit? Here are the shoes. I know you wanted to see. Okay, so then there's a big shadow underneath her neck. You'll be able to see just a little bit of white kind of peeking out. And then right here, there's some light happening on her neck. I'm just going to fill that in. It's an organic shape. Let's take the black, just reiterate it. A little triangle for her collar, and then it comes down. A lot of her features are dissipating in the black, and when it is done, it's going to look really good. So in here is where her shoulder is going to be. Think of painting as applying the paint and then refining it. It's not about getting it right the first time. It's not a paint by number. And paint by numbers look weird when they're done because it doesn't use this method. All right, I'm cutting back some of the left side of her face. I talk about negative space in every art tutorial I do because it's so important. What is negative space? Negative space is the space around whatever it is that you think you're painting. So remember that you can paint and draw around what it is that you're trying to paint, and by proxy you end up painting the thing you're trying to paint. So whenever I paint behind her face, I end up painting her face. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white and just indicate some of these highlights in her outfit. So there's a little highlight here on her collar. That one's curved. Now, diagonal lines. This is a good start, believe it or not. I'm going to take more of my strong black and just push some of these blacks before I go in with my lights. You can kind of start to see her emerging from the black. We want to make sure that the head is nice and round, even though she's at an angle. And it's okay if not everything is detailed. That's her little earlobe. I'm going to articulate her eye using black. I forgot to mention, which you may have figured it out by now, this is a black and white painting, so I'm just using black and white. Hang on, let me change my water really quick. Sometimes my water gets muddy. Okay. Are you having fun? Let's take a little bit of my gray, articulate the shape of the eye. It's kind of like a leaf shape. Let's add a little bit of the white in there, also on the other side as well. Painting in her pupil with a darker shade of gray, which right now she looks a little creepy, but we're painting general to specific. Now, adding a little white underneath her eye. I'm also going to lighten the space around her eye. And it will remove where her eyebrow is, but that's okay because I was just putting it there as a placeholder. All right, so now let's add in the eyebrow again. It's kind of like a shallow mountain shape. Finding the right shade of gray, which I'm doing so much mixing on my canvas. But we're gonna add basically makeup on her eye. Winging out the eyeshadow to be a little bit of a smoky eye effect. Let's go ahead and add her pupil in by creating a circle within the circle. Obviously, she's looking out of the corner of her eye, the corner of her eye. So that's important to indicate in this painting. And we'll do the same on the left eye. The left eye is further away from us visually, so there's more shading around her eye. Taking my darker shade of black and just going in, just indicating where her mask is. Went a little bit outside of the lines, no problem at all. You can always just paint over it. Re-articulate your initial intention. She's looking creepy. That's okay. Let's put some eyeliner on her. It comes as no surprise that Catwoman is wearing a cat eye, which is when your eyeliner sweeps out to the side into a point. I'm going to go ahead and intensify the whites of her eyes. Mainly the bottom part. And I might make it a little bit rounder. Uh-oh. I messed up. Also, I feel like her pupil isn't in the right spot. It needs to be more centered. That's maybe a little bit better. Eyes require attention to detail, but when you get them right, it's incredibly satisfying and fun. They're the window to the soul, and So I'm making sure to pay attention to the lifelikeness in the eyes. Adding a little bit more shape and definition to the whites of the eye. A little highlight there, and then there should be a shadow from her lid, her top eyelid, onto the iris and the tear duct. There we go. Don't judge your painting until it's done. And I'm saying that because, especially when you're doing faces, it will likely look creepy until it's done. So, like uncanny more so. Do you ever see those paintings of people where it looks like a wax figure? That's what we're trying to avoid. All right, let's keep going. Are you following along? Are you learning anything? I hope so. Then I'm going to take gray and just sweep it around my pupil. And then I'm going to add a little outline on the iris and refine my pupils. Take a little bit of white, brighten it a little bit more, and I'm going to keep doing that as it dries. Brightening the iris on this side as well. Paintings are an accumulation of incremental choices. Don't get hard on yourself if it's not immediate. We're going to brighten this up down here. And don't be afraid of brush marks either. In the sense that sometimes we spend a lot of time just smoothing it out, when sometimes the texture and brush strokes give it character. While I work on brightening the white in the face, because I'm going to take a break on the eyes, let's take a minute and talk about how good Danny DeVito was as Penguin. That's his name, right? He's so creepy. And it's so interesting how Danny DeVito really does have the look that Tim Burton often goes for in his cartoons. Just like that strange physical body. Are you a Danny DeVito fan? What are the Danny DeVito movies and TV shows that you like? Actually, the first time I ever saw Danny DeVito was on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He was so good, so weird in that. There's a mouse in here. Oh my gosh. That is wild. I need to get a mouse trap. I kept seeing my plants move and I was like, what's going on? And then I finally saw it. It's a mouse. I guess that's Catwoman. I'm gonna have to go eat it. Let me see. I scared it away. So funny. The one time I've ever seen a mouse in my studio is the day I dress up as Catwoman. It's a sign. And honestly, I'm gonna have to get a mouse trap. All right, so now, since we did some refining of the eyes and the upper portion of the face, let's do that on the bottom portion of the face. Going back to my larger brush, and I'm going to just take my white and my gray and increase the brightness of the skin. And I will say it's the natural tendency to just focus on the features and refine the features. Whereas focusing on the skin and the areas in between the features is an example of painting the negative space, because in doing that, you will be able to refine the features, and it's a good thing. Actually, I'm going to show you a trick. This is my paint palette. It's airtight seal palette. This is palette paper. These are wet pieces of paper towel to keep the paint wet. And then I also have the spray gun that I spray my acrylics occasionally to maintain the wetness. Now that her lips are a hot mess, let's refine. I'm going to create some shape here. Starting out with some black, but mixing it in with my light gray paint. Her lips are pouting. The corners of her lips should line up with around the outline of her iris. And then as her lip curves in, it gets darker, so we're just gonna sculpt her upper lip. Really good. And her lips are slightly opened like that, showing some of her upper teeth like that. So we're going to create a little bit of shading and indicate that her mouth is open by painting in the teeth and the space around her lips. Teeth can be kind of hard. What we're going to do is just add some gray, rectangle, and then a smaller rectangle that comes up a little bit higher on either side. And then we're going to take some black, create a little bit of a division between the two teeth, and create a shadow as well. Underneath her lip is going to be very dark because she's got these full lips. So, and we're kind of sweeping it out with these curvy lines, because most full lips have little grooves in them, especially if they're natural. No hate to non-natural lips. I'm a fan of whatever people want to do. All right, now let's refine her bottom mouth, the bottom of her mouth. Kind of bring up that bottom lip. It does require a little bit of finessing to get it just right. You don't have to include every detail that you see, especially not as you see it. You can wait till the paint dries, work on something else, and then come back to it. It's normal to feel a sense of urgency moving through the painting to capture everything that you're trying to capture. Highlight the top of her lips and kind of do the same thing with the white as I did with the black, only from the top down. Look, here's a little, and I'm saving most of the strongest highlights for the very end, because if you put the strongest highlights in too early on in the painting, you'll find yourself likely trying to preserve those highlights rather than doing what's best for the painting. So all of your choices should be guided by what's best for the painting. Working on those teeth. Also, it's interesting because as you paint, you'll realize that you can't really paint one thing in isolation. Like the lips are connected to the mouth, and the mouth is connected to the cheeks, and everything is connected, and that's really, really important to remember. Because if you start painting one aspect of the painting in isolation, you will likely lose sight of how everything locks together as a whole. It's important to keep those proportions correct. I'm going to highlight the shadow. So there is this shadow here, and then there's almost like a highlight in the shadow, which can be tricky. And again, if you can't get everything, first of all, you have to think of painting as simplifying the entire way through. So try to simplify as you go. In simplification, you actually wind up adding details. All right, it's getting there. That kind of is too much of an outline, so I'm just going to take my white and my gray and just buff it out a little bit. Still working on the mouth. I wanted to make her lip a little bit taller. Refining her lip, her teeth. Let's create a more intentional shadow on the bottom lip. And let's make it a little bit more gray, creating creases. See how I have to overcorrect sometimes? And then you take the white and you reel it in, highlighting the top of her lip. That highlight is so nice, and we're going to do more highlights like that later on. Take a minute and increase the brightness once again of the skin, little by little, intensifying it. And look, that's going to make the lips pop out more because we're going to keep the lips darker. And I'm not going to bring the white all the way down to her jawline because I like this shadow happening. Sometimes you need to finesse the brush strokes until they feel right. Like in here, move it into the lips. And you really want your brush strokes to go the direction that the actual object or body part or whatever it is that you're painting is going. I don't want that highlight to be quite as bright as the other one, but we do want some highlights over there. Just kind of buffing them in, brighten it up over here as well. After I do this, I'm going to go back with my black and do something similar. Add more shadows, refine the shapes. Taking my black. Remember we talked about the negative space? Pushing in her eye, or the outline of her cheekbone area. You can always push and pull Maybe that was a little too much, maybe, but look. Now you can soften that line so it doesn't feel so harsh. I do think this needs to be more shallow. Looks a little funky, but we're getting there. All right, let's work on that eye a little bit. Curving it in. Very good. We'll add eyelashes later, but there's a little white spot down here. I want this to be more refined around the lips. And in doing that, I may have kind of messed up the lip, but it's worth it to mess it up in order to push the painting further. We're going to intensify the whites around the eye. Like the skin tone, basically, just intensifying it. And I'm going to take my white and just kind of cut into the eyebrows to make it look like there's little hairs. There we go. Add more white to the tip of the nose. And bringing it down. We're going to work on the mask as well because, like I said, you can't paint anything in isolation. You have to also paint what's around the thing that you're painting. Bringing down the mask a little bit more so it feels like it's curving around her cheek. And brighten up the crease of her eyelid. Now, if it's between being a cat person and a dog person, what are you? I must admit, I'm more of a dog person, but today I'm more of a cat person. Let's intensify the light spot on her neck. I love how in Batman Returns, Catwoman is a little bit of an anti-hero, and these are organic shapes, so follow along as best as you can. Wow. This is really coming along, no surprise though. I love her costume, and I love how she used the whip so well, and apparently the scene where she knocks off the heads of the mannequins was basically done in one take. And I would have brought my whip with me today, but I decided against it because, well, honestly, I don't have one. But maybe next time. That looks a little weird, so we're just going to take the black and work this shadow back in. And of course, like I said, it just takes some finessing to get it right. there's a little divot here, and then it goes down, kind of curves around. That looks good and intact for the most part. And then now I'm gonna reiterate this part of the latex outfit. So I love the idea of a latex outfit. They are so hot, and I loved it on her in Batman Returns, but I'm allergic to latex. I won't be wearing a latex outfit anytime soon, unfortunately, for you. But my outfit today is my rendition of Catwoman. This is good. Creating a few details around the mouth. She's got a pouty mouth. Like I said, this is my rendition of Catwoman. It's not Michelle Pfeiffer, although she is the best Catwoman in my humble opinion. She just brings so much character to the character. And it's so funny because her hair is blonde, yet she has a darkness to her that really works with that role, because darkness doesn't really have anything to do with hair color, if you think of it. It's an energy. Okay, let me take a second and check the audio. The audio is good so far. And honestly, I'm kind of cold. I'm surprised the heater hasn't turned on randomly. All right, let's work on the eyes. How does that sound? How does that sound? We're going to reiterate that cat eye makeup. And now I'm going to do some eyelashes by just pulling out push and pull, just like so. There's also eyelashes and shadows on the bottom of her eye, which create dimension. Does not have to be perfect. Now we're going to take a light shade of gray. We're going to create a more windowy look in her eyes by lightening up the bottom part of the iris, but keeping the top part shaded, because there's a cast shadow from the eyelid. Already, that looks really good. Let's take the white and refine the shape of the eye. And again, all of the painting is back and forth, refine, add, refine, add. We're going to intensify the crease above her eye. And yes, I messed up a little. It's okay. You just buff it out a little bit. And that's the joy of painting. You can just correct it as you go. Creating a few little highlights here and there in between the lashes can go a long way. Quiet up there. Let's do the same thing on this side. You see how creating that halo just makes the eyes feel so much more alive. You have to integrate it into what you already have. On this eye, let's shade the white of the eye. Because the eyeball is round, we have to make sure that it is getting darker as it like moves away from the viewer a little bit. I don't really know how to explain it. Right here should be a little, I don't know what you call it, a bridge. The bridge of the eye is that line that happens right underneath, where it's like right by your eyelid. It connects to your tear duct. The corner. Lord, these little details are so annoying. Very good. All right, let's add a little highlight on her eyes. At 11 o'clock, a little dot on both eyes. And it's going to be right in the pupil. Just like that. Pretty. I'm going to add the eyelashes onto the left eye now. Just sweeping them out. A little mascara can go a long way. Pretty. There's a little triangle on the corner of her eye of light. That's pretty. We want to make sure that the angle is right of her cheekbone. Let's intensify the white of the tip of the nose, so it feels like her nose is coming out towards us visually. I've said this before, but painting is sculpting in a 2D way, so think of it that way, and that'll help, because if you can sculpt it, and if your brushstrokes can really go the direction of the form, whatever the form is you're painting, it'll look way more three-dimensional, way more convincing. Be sure to also paint side to side, not just up and down. And remember that painting, I forgot what I was going to say. Right now I'm just trying to make the nose look relatively decent. Shade underneath, a little cast shadow. Yeah, there's a highlight here. Definitely the tip of the nose needs to be bright. There's kind of a highlight in the shadow on the left side as well. Not too much though, just a little bit. Refining the nose. Making sure the nostrils are going the right direction. Okay, that looks good. And I can always fix it later. Create this cast shadow right there. A little buffing away of the strong shadow. And I want to make sure I don't have too bright of a white, more of a gray. There we go. Almost like a subtle highlight underneath the nose. And then the bottom of the nose is important too, where it connects to the upper lip. The shadow got a little out of hand, no worries. We'll just take some white and carve around it. Let's brighten up the white of her eye on this side. Feels a little dark over there. Let's work on the highlights. I am actually nearing the end of the painting finally. She's there. She looks beautiful. She looks good. She looks pretty. Now it's time to intensify the highlights and maybe even intensify some of the shadows as well. So let's continue painting Catwoman. And pay attention to these last details. I know I was working on highlights, but I'm just going to make this feel a little bit more shadowed around the eyes. Same with over here, just add like makeup basically. Not too much, like that was probably too much, but there we go. That's good. And then of course some shadows. Okay, that looks good. Highlighting right here using my brighter white by her eye. Shaping the shadow a little bit with the white. Good. Let's highlight the tip of her nose. All right, let's take a minute and highlight some of the latex mask and bodysuit. So I'm just feeling it out, putting it in a few places. I may have to go back and forth between the white and the black to make it feel natural. It's really just adding right here. I'm going to make this more curved so her nose feels like it has more definition. And then I'm going to just add some of this gray back in. And then I painted over the crease of her eye, maybe a little too much. I'll just add that back in as well. So in here, just refining that, going back and forth between the highlights and low lights. They work together. Let's make this feel a little bit more curved and angled, really. It's not a perfect oval. Let's add just a little skin between the nose and the mask. These little incremental details go a long way when it's all said and done. Bring the skin up. Refining the details in the eye. Creating more hairs on the eyebrow with the white paint. So right now I'm adding the final highlights, the final touches to the painting. Let's add a little highlight here by the nose and by the cheek. This is really what's going to pull it all together and make it feel lifelike, representational. All of that is different than realism. Realism is, in my opinion, boring. Believe it or not, almost anyone can learn how to paint realistically. However, representational is a way to include lifelike, realistic aspects in your painting without it being fully realistic. It still looks like a painting. And of course, to each his own. I'm not yucking your yum if that's what you like. I'm just speaking about my own personal preference. All right, let's add some gray in here. So it's not black, it's not white, it's a little bit of gray. I want to add some gray in here too. But in doing so, I need to make sure that the light spots are also there. When it comes to adding highlights in the latex, it will require you to just eyeball it and finesse it until it looks right. But don't stare directly at it, because if you do, you won't like it. For sure, you won't like it. That's why sometimes stepping away from the painting and coming back is a good idea. I will disclaimer, I will say that although I will come to a solid stopping point, I may not be totally done with the painting until I sleep on it and come back to it later. So keep that in mind. It's perfectly normal and understandable to spend more than one sitting on a painting. Oh, I forgot to intensify her earlobe right here. That adds way more structure to her face. And a lot of the grays and colors, not really colors, a lot of the shades of black and white I'm mixing on the canvas so I can really see how they look in context to the rest of the painting. So keep that in mind. Now for the ear. It's looking very latexy, which is good. That's what we want. Are you having fun? When was the last time you painted something? Have you painted anything recently? Well, this is your excuse to paint something. Now let's add just a few highlights on her lips. Remember the one that I had here? I'm going to add it back in because I accidentally did away with it in the process of me working away on the structure of the mouth, which happens. Lord. Sometimes it's not as straightforward as just, add a highlight. Sometimes you gotta integrate it in to the rest of the painting. Depending on the highlight and the painting, it can be kind of a annoying, laborious process. Add a few little creases in her lips. We don't want them to be as bright as the other highlight, but a little bit brighter is good. A little shadow, or a little highlight within the shadow on the right side of her lip. That looks really bad. It's okay. Sometimes you have to make it look bad before you make it look better. It's like plastic surgery or organizing your closet. You have to take everything out and mess it up before you can put it all back in and make it better. So There's really no such thing as overdoing a painting, in my opinion. If you feel like you have overdone your painting, you likely haven't gone far enough. Because if you feel like you overdid your painting, you probably are at a point where you deconstructed it in hopes to bring it further, but you haven't brought it far enough. Highlight her teeth a little bit here at the very tip of them. Make it feel like they are... I mean, she looks kind of quirky, which I like. Don't hyperfixate on one part of the painting. Move throughout the painting. That's why I went from the highlights of her suit to her mouth, so I can see everything in context to each other. Just gonna curve that in a little bit. There we go. Soften her mouth in here. There we go. That looks good. I think that the heater just turned on for the first time today. Create a little ridge on her lower lip. And refining the side of her mask. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heater really quick, and I'll be right back. This painting is taking longer than I thought. I will say the other scene, well, the scene that I like in Batman Returns, when Catwoman turns into Catwoman and she's tearing up her apartment. I love the scene where there's that window view of the neon light that says, "Welcome to hell." And before that it said, oh, no, it said hello there at first. And then after she turned into Catwoman, it says hell here. Took me a second to remember it, but yeah, I think that's so clever. And of course, I have my neon signs. And then I think she goes, "I am Catwoman. Hear me roar." That's so epic. Now, if I don't quote her exactly, please don't get on to me. I have a bad memory sometimes. It's like anything I need to remember, I don't remember. And then all the things that I do remember, I don't need to remember. But yeah, don't get mad at me if I don't quote it exactly, because sometimes y'all be tripping. All right, now let's just refine the highlights in the bottom part of her bodysuit and then call it a day, because your girl is tired. Your girl is tired. Wait a second. I think that is supposed to be that. Yeah, hang on. I have like 2 different colors. Sometimes that happens where you'll be working on something and then you'll realize, wait, you'll make a silly mistake. Okay, so let's highlight this color here, and then here, and then highlight in here. Just adding the little light spots in her latex fit. And it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to communicate the story and the overall vibe. And honestly, I think that's what it does. I mean, it's not perfect, but that's what I love about it, because in the world of AI, who needs perfect? If you want perfect, just generate an AI image, which my reference is an AI image, but the painting isn't. That looks good. I'm going to take my black and just, this is my dark black. Rather than my flat black, it has a little bit more shine. I'm just going in and intensifying the black on this side. And on the other side, why not? Let's just add more black. Really good. All right. Really good. I love her. All right, let me take a picture. Oh my God, yes. Oh my gosh, this eats. All right, the only thing I want to do, I want to just kind of blend that in a little bit more. There we go. That way it feels like it's truly wrapping around her neck. I love this painting. It took forever to do, but I love it. Good things take time, right? Just make sure it feels like her neck is consistent all the way down. Those things matter. No. All right, there's a little drip of water. Now it feels weird, doesn't it? It feels like it's, I don't know, something messed up in that process. It feels too harsh of a line. Just buff it out. Hang on. All right, this is what we gotta do. We have to just pay a little bit more attention to the neck for a second, and then I'm done. It just needs to fade into the black a little bit more. Sometimes you think you're done, and then you look at it, and you're like, maybe no one else will notice this, but I will, so you gotta bring it to the standard that you feel good about. It doesn't really matter what other people think. And then this comes down. Into her little collarbone. That looks good. Way better. Gotta keep that curve nice and visible. These last final touches that go a long way. I want that choker to feel like it's curving around her neck. Even though it's very dark in there, it's important that it feels like it's curving. Otherwise, it's just not gonna look right. But that looks better. And a little highlight here. A little extra highlight in there. It feels like a seam in the latex outfit. A few little dots. All right. Now let me take another picture. Taking a picture is a great way to see if it looks good. It does. The last thing is, there's something about seeing something through another lens, literally, that helps you literally see it through another lens. But yeah, we're just gonna combine that black and then bam, we're done. What do you think? Do you like it? Wow, that was hard. Seriously. That was not easy at all. It wasn't. Like, it came together nicely. But faces require a lot of patience. So, I hope you enjoyed this ASMR art tutorial of Catwoman. see you next time. Oh yes, if you enjoyed this ASMR art tutorial, please like and subscribe. It's the free way to help me out a lot.